Thank you so much, Kim, my production assistant for today. You'll hear me acknowledge her many times probably because she's providing great support. She's just turned on our recording for today. Before we begin, we just want to let you know that everything happening in this large group during the webinar will be recorded so that those who missed the event can check it out later. And thanks, Kim, as well, for advancing my slides. Forgive me, I'm a little back and forth between my screens here. I will give my introduction now. Hi, I'm Natalie Brackett. I am the lead for USAID's Global Reading Network. We are so grateful for your membership and your engagement by joining us here today. I want to acknowledge, again, all of the great organizations, country contexts, different types of specialties that are represented here today by your attendance. Again, just freshly checking into the chat, several education officers, folks based in Nigeria, in the US, in Liberia. Wonderful, wonderful. I'm gonna maybe just hit one more boring part before we get more fully started, but just to remind you about some norms, some things we want to practice here together, at least in the big room. If you don't mind muting your microphone and turning off your camera when you are not speaking, again, that's just going to help us from a technology connection standpoint. Of course, I love to see your face, a personal connection level, and hopefully we will have good time for that as well. But here in the big group, let's keep our videos off and our microphones muted for the moment. Auto closed captioning is available. It's live. If you want that, it should be a feature at the bottom of your Zoom. Please feel free to chat me or Kim if you're having issues with that. And finally, feel free to use the chat, post your questions or comments as we go. Please do try to keep them on topic so we can get to all the good stuff we want to cover today together. Okay, with that, I'm going to talk a little bit, but again, I will say the goal for today is to hear from you. So let's maybe get to that part as soon as we can. My introduction here is for a little bit of context for the Global Reading Network. It is part of the Usaid Leading Through Learning global platform, which includes two other global learning networks, the Higher Education Learning Network. You'll hear us maybe call that the HELN every now and then. That is its acronym, HELN, and the Education in Crisis and Conflict Network, or ECCN. In addition to those three global networks, we have regional hubs in Latin America and the Caribbean, Africa, and Washington, D.C. We hope that in addition to staying tuned to us, the GRN, you'll be interested in collaboration across the platform. We're going to drop a link in the chat for you to register now. You can receive invitations to future events for all of these networks and hubs, as well as other opportunities to convene and co-create with fellow members. So, thinking more specifically about GRN, about us, our little community here together, I just want to say how excited I am to be together again. The last time we had an occasion for this was in our relaunch in November of 2021. So again, like I said, I would like to stop talking. I would love to hear from you. So before we get started, we're gonna ask for that engagement right away. I want to know how you are feeling as a GRN member and what you are interested in engaging around together, both here today and beyond. So Kim, yeah, thanks so much for queuing up that first poll here. Our first question for you is, what is your current level of engagement with the GRN? Are you a member now? Are you actively aware of that? Maybe you've been a member for many years since the GRN initially launched in 2016. That's great. Are you a member now, but you maybe just heard about the GRN recently? You've connected through other Leading Through Learning global platform sources, or you joined us starting around our relaunch at the end of last year. Are you not a member, but you heard about the topic of today's conversation and wanted to join us? Great. Or you're not sure? That's fine too. Hopefully you'll know a little bit more about what it means to be a member as we get going today. Thanks so much for your responses. Kim, I'll ask when the poll looks like we've had a good ratio of response, if you don't mind closing that.
We're at 67% responded and climbing.
Ooh, great. Okay. Let's see where it's landed, Kim. Great. So a pretty good proportion, over 60, close to 70% of y'all are GRN members who are aware and active and proud. That's awesome. If you don't fall into that category, also cool. So glad you're here with us. And we hope that you'll feel some identity and excitement about being a GRN member after participating in today's event. Awesome. Let's click to one more question for you all. And that is, what do you want to get out of your engagement with the GRN? What is your most valuable way that you come to the table and engage with us? And what are the most valuable things you get out of this network? Is it learning emerging good practices? Is it sharing learning from your organization's programming or research, I suppose? Is it gaining access to practical tools and guidance on implementing activities? Is it staying up to date on new USAID policies? Is it networking to identify ways to collaborate? Is it something else? Are there ideas or benefits of this network that we haven't highlighted here that you would like to share with folks? Feel free to come off mute or to drop something in the chat if that's your answer. And just checking on the chat. Thank you all who continue to introduce yourself. We'll give the poll just a few more seconds here.
We have 63% participating.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited and caffeinated because I'm giving myself a slow countdown before reading out the polls here. Great, thanks so much, Kim. So what do you want to get out of your engagement with the GRN? This was a multiple choice, so glad to see a lot of these options are enticing to you. Learning emerging good practices looks like kind of our runaway winner here. And then networking to identify ways to collaborate. I'm really hoping today's event in particular is going to serve that purpose. As well, gaining access to practical tools. Great, a pretty good representation across these functions. Anyone who answered other about what they get out of the GRN, would you like to share? Would you like to come off mute or share in the chat? And if not, that's fine. Again, we will have plenty of opportunities to talk together today. So I'll just say, regardless of where you are in your engagement with the GRN to date, we're really hopeful that we will meet you where you are and preview the benefits of deeper engagement in this network. So today, we're aiming to meet some of those desired ways of working together by demonstrating the ability and the convening power of GRN to be a space for us to share specific key lessons, challenges, and needs around a particular technical topic around return to learning, and many subtopics therein, right? There's a lot to unpack: remediation, acceleration, differentiation, inclusivity, and other alternative approaches to learning. I am really pleased to introduce some of our key leaders for the GRN who have helped make today's event possible and who are volunteering, supporting our facilitation today. And those are members of the GRN steering group. For some context, this group came together for the first time in March of this year, and they have already demonstrated the wonderful collaboration and elevation of cross-organizational priorities in the realm of foundational skills that the GRN can facilitate. The focus of our conversation today around return to learning follows from this group, from the steering group's identification of a list of priorities for the network to tackle as a whole. So welcome to all the folks from this list who are probably here today. I certainly know some of you are. I'll say a special thanks to Avi, to Young, to Laura, to Paige, to Melissa for helping with some of the facilitation, and Mariana, forgive me. Corey as well couldn't be here, but helped a lot with the event design in particular today. So special shouts out. Thank you all for your time and help. So again, we're gonna start to jump right in and focus on that piece that we have now teed up, our technical priority for today, return to learning. So today we're here to talk about all that we have learned and what challenges we're still facing around this kind of bucket of topics that we are calling return to learning. You can find, oh, apologies. I think I had some animation that didn't quite stick on this slide. I apologize. But the key here is that, again, we've had a list of priorities that our steering group has generated, and we're zooming in on one of those, right? We hope to tackle all of these priority areas at some point through activities, events, and more in the coming months. And we'll be fleshing out these kind of general ideas and responding to your emerging needs coming out of conversations just like this. So this is really your opportunity to influence the direction of the network. There's also other opportunities, right? We've just had a formal process, a call for concept notes through the Leading Through Learning global platform that was open earlier this month. While we're not quite in a place to say, here's exactly which of those submissions we're running with at the moment, we're really excited that you as members engaged and submitted your ideas, and you'll see some of those aligning to these priorities and that the GRN will take forward in the really near future, which is so exciting. So for now, we're gonna zoom in on our highlighted piece here on return to learning. I will pose this openly. What does this phrase mean to you, especially at this point in the response, recovery, and cyclical ebbs and flows of the COVID-19 pandemic? Or perhaps you've been working for many years with learners in and out of school who benefit from alternative approaches like remediated or accelerated education. If any members have initial thoughts to share, we open the floor to you. Please come off microphone or add your response in the chat. What is return to learning from your perspective? Thanks, Paige. Paige has dropped a good phrase for us to also identify with this, building back better. Would anyone like to add to what Paige has shared, or your own concept of what return to learning means? Alyssa says, learners accessing education again. Vanessa shares, return to focused, face-to-face learning every day. And GB shares, going back to skill acquisition. Jean thanks, a return to a sense of belonging into a learning community. Helen shares, schools opened and safe. Miriam says, looking at learning and instruction in a different way, accepting a new normal. I will say, as our steering group had conversations about this topic and this event, we spent a good amount of time debating this phrase return to learning and how it already felt maybe stale in some ways at this point in the many webinars and conversations we've had around the COVID-19 pandemic. Is there an opportunity for us to come up with stronger or better language about this being a new reality, something that is truly going to change everything about our approaches to education? So I really appreciate you servicing that new normal piece of this. I'm falling behind in the chat now, really great inputs. Returning to more inclusivity, the lessons the pandemic has taught us, leveling assessments and catch-up courses. Wow, thank you all so much. I'm maybe falling behind too much to capture all of this. However, again, we are going to be sharing this recording. I believe we'll have access to chat transcripts as well. And we are about to jump right into a place where I hope you will take these ideas you've dropped in the chat and add them to our Jamboard, our interactive activity, or get a chance to speak in a small group and elaborate on this. So thank you again for taking the time to share. Before we get too far away from kind of our top level conversation, there's a valuable resource that I really want to highlight in addition to your great inputs, which is the Usaid Return to Learning Toolkit. You can find a link to that now in the chat box. We have referenced this toolkit, the GRN in our steering group and this event design team for many of our definitions and subtopics today. And while we have many excellent resources like this for our shared reference, it's really useful for us to unpack that together, right? To have this space, to have those conversations. So the toolkit has been a great framework for that. And now we're ready to hear from you. So with that goal in mind, we're going to get ready for our smaller breakout rooms. The breakout rooms are dedicated to specific aspects of return to learning, and they will be available for you to self-select and join the topic that is most interesting to you. And you will be alongside fellow members that are also fired up and ready to talk about that topic. Each room will have a facilitator from the GRN steering group who can help kick off your conversation. I will suggest and hope that each group assigns a note taker so that we really capture all this great stuff. We'll have a space for that we're sharing, and a rapporteur, someone to share back the highlights of your conversation when we reconvene in this larger group. So for now, you can find the link to the Jamboard in the chat, I'm hoping. Great, thank you so much, Kim. If you are not familiar with Jamboard, I'm going to really quickly walk through how to use it. To use the Jamboard, you will open this link in a separate window. You can toggle between frames by clicking the arrows at the top of your screen. Each frame has a different definition of the subtopic that we are focusing on. Again, pulling from our kind of collective knowledge, and also the guiding questions for today. To add your idea to a frame, click on the sticky note icon on the left side of the menu, type in your idea and click save. You can then click and drag around your sticky note to the main part of the Jamboard frame. You can also get fancy, change sticky note colors, cluster your sticky notes by topic. I will leave that to your small group to see how innovative you can get. Again, you'll find definitions for some of these subtopics that the groups are focusing on in your Jamboard itself. You'll be able to see how many folks are in a breakout room here on the Zoom platform before you select it to join. If you notice there are more than 10 people already in a room, please select a different group. You don't have to be an expert on these subtopics. I think we're going to learn a lot from each other, and recognize that you want to be in a topic that you're passionate about and have some lessons learned to share. However, we do want to have a good spread and make sure there is time and space for everyone to talk. So again, if you notice a room being too crowded, maybe pick another one. You'll have a leader from the GRN steering group supporting you. We will have time to report out. And again, it would be great if you remembered to assign a note taker for your group. So we've dropped the Jamboard for you to peek into. And we are about to open the Jamboards for you to select. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. It is so lovely to see all of you. I know we have our norm about videos off, but it's actually great to see people's faces. Hi. I know there's never enough time for these conversations. We did actually give a few extra minutes to it. So I'm glad that the discussions were fruitful from what I'm seeing across the Jamboards, and really interested to share our lessons learned across these groups now. So I'll ask, oh, great, Paige. I'm so glad to hear you had a good session. We'll go through each of the group's Jamboards one by one then. Kim, I believe you'll be able to share those screens, right? Great, we're already there. Awesome. So we'll start. Hopefully you did assign a rapporteur, someone to report out for your group, and we'll start with the remediated education group. You have 2 minutes to share some key highlights from your conversation.
I was the facilitator of the group, and I failed to assign somebody to share what we've learned. So I was wondering if could somebody from my group maybe chime in and share what we discussed. And if, okay, go ahead.
I can do that, Abby.
Thank you.
Want to happen. So I think the first thing to note is a lot of people in our group were coming and asking the question like, well, what is remediated education and what are best practices? And I think that's really reflective of the place we're in, which is this is often new and has, or at least has gained importance as a result of COVID. So a lot of questions and challenges. A lot of highlight in terms of what works well on additional time. So one of our colleagues talked about reading camps that World Vision runs on the weekends, and ensure or having time before or after school, and then providing as much as possible more individualized attention to children based on their needs. A lot of challenges around the fact that we see bigger gaps now between students because not all students were able to participate in home-based learning. So gaps that were already there have grown even larger over the pandemic because of that. And then challenges also with getting teachers to understand if we have a remediation program, how that they need to use it every day and how they need to use it in alignment with the curriculum. And of course, the other needs that students are coming to the classrooms with in terms of mental health and social emotional learning. So please, anyone else from my group, if I missed something, feel free to put it in the chat or hop in.
Thanks so much, Avi, Rebecca, everyone in that conversation. Really appreciate your framing too. What are each of these subtopics? How distinct are they from each other? Hearing your points about individualized attention and inclusivity, obviously even in our subtopics where there's a lot to parse out and to actually maybe not silo out into these Jamboards. I think there's some cross-referencing we could be doing for each of these subtopics even. Thank you so much. I'll try to move us quickly, although I'm so interested in your conversations. The next group that we'll have report out is the accelerated education group.
Hi, Natalie. So yeah, I made the same mistake as Abby. We didn't assign a volunteer, but probably someone from our team can, I don't know if Laura or Mary or Dana would like to jump in now. Let's give someone, otherwise I can present.
I'll do it.
Okay,
Mariana.
great, thank you.
Hi, everybody. Just to explain that there was a great utilization of the chat box, unmuting, and the Jamboard. and I may not remember everything that was shared, but we'll first of all we'll look at what didn't work well or we think could be improved. One is the cost of accelerated education. It can be quite expensive. It's also important to decide in advance or in collaboration with partners what needs to be covered, what's actually relevant for the students. Gendered experiences was also mentioned. So again, girls and women's education, how can they access accelerated education if they have double burden at home? And also the developmental needs of learners. That can be a challenge because there's a wide range of needs out there when designing an accelerated program. Looking at what worked well, there is an emphasis on partnership. So working with ministries has worked well on how to, again, create an accelerated education program from a national curriculum, the use of assessment, assessing learners to understand where they are at their starting point. The emphasis on creating safe learning environments as a condition for accelerated education to be successful. The accelerated education working group principles, so the 10 principles that guide implementers on how to create accelerated education was appreciated. And again, the final piece that was emphasized as something that works well is involving communities and creating partnership with communities. Mariana, please let me know if I have omitted something.
No, you did great, Mary. Thank you so much.
Lovely. Thank you all so much. Again, I want to talk about each of these things for another 20 minutes. I'm going to move us on though. To the next group, it is differentiated education. Do I have someone to report out there? Young, I'm so sorry. I think your audio is maybe not connected.
Oh, sorry about that. We
That's okay.
have Helen who was going to report. Helen,
I'll
feel free.
report out. But in terms of what worked well, there was some focus on supporting teachers, whether in-service support or things like that. Materials that are differentiated for context and grade. Assessment was also thought of as something that worked well, leveling assessments upon reentry to know kind of then how to target materials and things to students. There was also mention of use of different technologies to supplement instruction. And remedial support, which kind of I think has been echoed in the other groups. An interesting thing also was the wraparound support services to children who are assessed below the level, and that could involve mental health, social and emotional learning, those kinds of things. What did not work so well, training teachers on differentiated instruction, poor teacher training, and things like this. It didn't seem to take as much in terms of what teachers were actually able to do. Digital devices were often not available. And then there was mention of the lack of cell and other wraparound services. And this last one, a systematic approach that supports teachers to help with differentiated instruction, e.g. grouping of students. I'm not sure if the person who put that up is saying that the systematic approach to do that didn't work well, or just saying that the absence of this systematic approach is what really didn't work well. But I think it links to this kind of teacher preparation, and that teachers weren't really prepared to do that kind of differentiated instruction.
Great. Thank you so much, Helen, and to that whole group. We are down to our wire here. So our inclusive ed folks, what a Jamboard. Cannot wait to spend time with this. If someone could report out maybe major themes here, in 60 to 120 seconds.
Hi, this is Jean, and we obviously have a lot of sticky notes. We had a great time introducing ourselves, but mostly we just used the sticky note Jamboard to talk about what went well and what hasn't worked well. But I think what was the highlight was it really highlighted inequality in education and access. It marginalized, more than ever, marginalized students became more marginalized. So as you can see, what worked well, there was a great relationship between teachers and parents. I think parents were empowered. And then there was more access and more publishers and people creating tools that included inclusive learners in their development. And then what didn't work well was similar. Access was a problem, technology was a problem. Yeah, and it was like planning for classes wasn't including inclusive students from the get-go. It was more retrofitting. Yeah, but we have really great Jamboards, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much again for just hitting the highlights. Recognize there's so much great conversation still to happen probably around these topics. So for our final group, this was other approaches. Were there folks who had a great conversation about something that didn't fit neatly into these other boxes?
Thanks, Natalie. Yeah, JD's going to report out for us. It was just the two of us, so that's why our Jamboard is not as packed, but JD has a lot of knowledge to share.
Though.
Please go ahead, JD.
Yeah, because my specialty is adult literacy. So we talked about that, yeah, in general, interest in first language instruction in Africa, or at least Francophone Africa, does seem to be growing. For identity issues, almost more than any other thing other than, as usual, Bible reading amongst Christians. But for non-Christians, identity issues is really big anymore. The advantage of the COVID pause was that forced the closing of literacy classes as well as schools, was that they could spend time, the program people could spend time on materials development, but you still have a lack of sorry, I'm used to talking about these things in French, an environmental literacy. We need to get like that, but yeah, we talked a lot about motivation for literacy, for school, for education. There's too many unemployed out of school or school graduates for education to be a motive, for the end result, the jobs to be a motivator. But so we really need to look at how, just as with adult literacy, for kids education as well, it needs to be practical, it needs to be better tailored to Africa's reality.
Appreciate that, Jadine. I'm sorry to cut you off, but we are truly in our final moment in this this event today. My lesson is I can't get enough time with you all, and I'm really enjoying these conversations that we've just started. I almost consider this event a teaser for what we can do together as a network. So with that, we will close with another opportunity for your inputs. We would love to know from you around this topic, how can we continue to support you? What would you like to see next in this return to learning conversation? I have about 1 million ideas coming out of this and seeing these wonderful Jamboards. But if you have any of these options that are exciting to you, additional events like this or webinar style, networking opportunities, professional development or knowledge products, kind of written guidance coming out of these conversations. We'd love to see which of these you're interested in. I recognize folks probably need to drop off for their next thing. We do have one more poll question for you. Thanks so much for giving us that influence of how we can support you around return to learning. Another thing that I have teased here is the fact that we have this whole great list of priorities that the steering group has initially articulated for our network. Which of them is most exciting to you? This is a single choice poll. I apologize for that. I know these are all exciting topics, but we're looking to maybe get a little ranking out of this. What is, if we could have another event like this on a different topic, which of these would you like to see next? And thanks, Kim, for these polls and for leaving us with the registration page so that we can continue to connect and learn from each other. Let's maybe wrap up this final poll. We can see that localization is perhaps another burning topic on people's minds, as well as support for teachers. I love that as a former teacher myself. We are over time, recognize we're losing folks by the second. Thank you so much again for a great conversation today. I hope that we will continue to convene wonderful spaces like this through the GRN, through our other networks and hubs, and on a personal and professional level. Looking forward to using what we've learned today for future directions for us, and to having many more great conversations like this through the power of the GRN. Thank you for being a member, and looking forward to seeing you next time.